everybody, and welcome. It's Friday, so it must be Kinetics USA weekly show, Onwards and Upwards, everything that a healthcare worker needs to know about coming to live and work in the United States. I am your host, Tanya Friedman, president of Kinetics USA, part of the AMN healthcare family, and we are the #1 company for direct hire healthcare workers coming to the United States. We have thousands of jobs all over the United States and have been doing this for many, many years. So if you're interested in coming to the United States, please apply online, and our team are waiting on hand right now to speak to you and see how we can help make your American dream a reality. Today's topic is all about Pearson PTE. This is a very important topic. If you are a healthcare worker overseas and you want to come to the United States and you are not trained in English, you have to pass an English proficiency test in order to come and live and work in the United States. Now, on the 1st of August last year, the CGFNS announced that they are accepting a number of other exams, not just TOEFL or IELTS as they had in the past, and Pearson PTE is one of those exams that they will accept for healthcare workers to show their proficiency coming to the United States. Let's hear a video clip from Mukul from CGFNS talking about how they came to this decision. So tell us about the announcement, what led up to that, and what does this mean for international healthcare workers?
Yeah, absolutely, Tanya. So first, I want to say there actually hasn't been a formal announcement yet. So it'll be announced on our website August 1st, and you'll see that there. But I definitely wanted. I know some news got out, and Tanya and I have been talking about this for years. She's the first one to kind of alerted me about these issues back in 3.5 years ago now, and so I thought this would be the first place to kind of start to talk about this. So I guess this is the first official news publicly from CGFNS on this.
You heard it here.
I've had to it here. You're hearing it first. Absolutely. So we've talked about, and what you just mentioned before, Tanya, about we want to make sure that we're offering as many opportunities as possible for healthcare professionals around the world to kind of meet our processes. And one of those, of course, from people coming from many countries in the world, in fact, most of them, is that you need an English language proficiency exam. So previously, or currently rather, the two exams that were approved were IELTS and TOEFL. And so we've been working with the U.S. government, specifically the HRSA division of the Department of Health and Human Services, on kind of updating the federal regulations to allow for additional English language tests. The idea here is, obviously, our primary goal is to ensure that people who need to have English language proficiency are able to speak and read English, but we want to provide as many opportunities and avenues to do that. And so that was the goal, was to have that happen. And so effective August 1st, when you go on our website, you'll see that there are multiple options, including Pearson PTE and OET, that you can take to satisfy that requirement.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mukul. So if you wanted to watch that show, we actually aired it before the announcement. So that's why healthcare workers around the world come to Onwards and Upwards, because we actually had the announcement before it was official on the CGFNS website that Pearson PTE is one of the exams that the CGFNS will accept for a visa screen for nurses coming to the United States. So we have a packed show today, very, very interesting show, very important show on the Pearson PT. And I encourage all of our viewers to stay on for the entire show, because we have some very exciting news. We have some generous giveaways from Pearson PTE. We have some prizes. We have 3 scored practice test codes that are going to be given away today in quizzes. We also have a full PTE test voucher. So how to win is these 4 quizzes today. We're going to have them interspersed in the show, and the first correct answer in the chat is going to be the winner of one of these amazing giveaways from the Pearson PTE. So if you are watching anywhere in the world, please put into the chat what your name is. I see that Rolf is joining us. Hi, Rolf. And Maham Dreza is saying hi from Iran. Hi, Maham Dreza. Please put into the chat. We love to see our viewers all over the United States, all over the world who are watching us today, and putting their questions into the chat for Pearson PTE. So with that said, I'm going to introduce Meredith. Meredith is going to be joining us, Meredith Stokes from Pearson PTE. Welcome, Meredith.
Hi, Tanya. Thank you for having me. It's so nice to be here.
Well, we are excited to have you here, Meredith. And I know our viewers can't wait to hear all about the information that you're going to be sharing about Pearson PTE. But let's start off with some introductions. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Meredith Stokes. I live in Texas in the U.S. I used to live in Germany. I've been all over Europe traveling and living, and I love PTE. I love getting to help English language learners along their journey. And this topic with nursing is so important to me. I've been working on getting this through for, 7-8 years now. So as you said, so excited to provide opportunity to nurses coming to the U.S. and choice. So thank you for having us.
Thank you, Meredith. And I see we've got Bella is saying hi, Rolf, Pascal from South America, welcome. Stella's from Nigeria, Hazem from Egypt, Debbie's saying nice mama, great. So let's get started, Meredith. Tell us a little bit about the Pearson PTE.
So PTE academic is a little bit different from your other language tests. And the main difference, we like to kind of shout out 3 words that are easy for people to remember. And it's simpler, faster, fairer. It's a much simpler experience from registration all the way through to the end of PTE. It's more fair because it's unbiased. It takes out that human element of scoring, and it also is a lot faster. I know that for nurses, everything, you're already working somewhere, life is busy, preparing takes time. So what we wanted to do was have a journey that was simple from start to finish and really gave our test takers the tools that they needed to be prepared for the test, and really be able to showcase their English language skills without all of the anxiety that can kind of come with English language testing.
Yeah, and anxiety is the right word, Meredith, because for many international healthcare workers, for example, like on the nursing side, they're more nervous of the English exam than sometimes the NCLEX exam. There's a lot of anxiety around that. So having a solution that is easy, simple, and effective can be very, very helpful for many nurses. Why is it important for a nurse who wants to work in the United States? Why is PTE important?
Well, for nurses that want to work in the U.S., as we know, you have to go through a lot of hoops. There's visa screen, there's applying with the board. And so again, getting your results in a fast manner. Most of our test takers get the results in less than 2 days. I want to thank all of the kinetics nurses that submitted their feedback on the test. I read so many great experiences and so many people that mentioned getting their results back in 2 hours. So being able to have that in hand after 2 hours and not waiting 2 weeks for your results can really not just change your anxiety for that day, but I imagine the anxiety of waiting for weeks to find out, what your next step is. Again, we know that this is life-changing. And I think that sometimes in the US, people don't understand that a language test really could be the barrier to your next step. And so being able to be comfortable and being able to speak in your natural way without all of that anxiety was really something that PTE wanted to focus on.
Well, that's very exciting to be able to get your exam so quickly, because I think we live in a generation of instant gratification. And yes, the English proficiency exam can be very anxiety provoking, but waiting for the result can be as bad. because you have no recourse but to wait. So knowing that you can get the results so quickly, I think is very exciting for many healthcare workers. If you are watching now, please put your questions in the chat for Meredith. We are here to talk about the PTE, why it's important for healthcare workers, where you can take it, how much it costs, how does it compare to other exams. We also have some nurses who are going to be sharing their stories and what their experiences were like with PTE. So please put your questions into the chat. The PTE is a relatively new I wouldn't say concept, but a new exam for healthcare workers coming to the United States. So where can people take the exam, Meredith?
So just a little bit kind of about PTE. As I said, we're a simpler experience. It's a 2-hour test session that is taken in a test center. We test in over 400 different testing locations in 140 different countries, most likely where you took your NCLEX. And so that can give you, again, a little sense of familiarity, already being at a place that you've taken one exam and being comfortable in that environment. We have global recognition. We are new to the healthcare world, as you talked about in the US, but we are used for nursing in Australia, as well as recognized for study, migration to Australia, New Zealand. And recently, we have been approved for migration to Canada with PTE Essentials. So PTE, our goal is to be a global test that can take our test takers anywhere. We would like our test takers to be able just to take one test and have that test fit all of their purposes and not have to take multiple language tests at every different stop.
So kind of like a one-stop shop wherever you want to go in the world.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So, all right. So we have a lot of viewers that are watching us. How fun. So we've got Camille who's watching, Sharon from Edmonton, JJ saying hi, Jennifer is loving PTE, Arin Mayades from Egypt, Brenda from the UK, Anup is asking, so this is an interesting question. What are some of the states that are not willing to accept PTE? Or should we flip that around, Meredith? Which are the states that do currently accept PTE?
So more breaking news on Kinetics Onwards and Upwards. This is the first place this has been announced, but North Dakota has now been added to the list. So there's 23 individual states that accept PTE. It is a little bit confusing. So I'll kind of back up. The first step is visa screen. PTE is accepted for visa screen. All states, it's for visa screen. So we're already listed on that regulation. And then you get to the individual states. And this is where I think it gets a little bit dicey in that there's new tests and not all states have the same requirements. So it does add a layer on the nurses to really kind of verify what state accepts which exam. Our goal is to have all of the states accepting PTE eventually, and that's on me. I'm in the process of reaching out and exploring those opportunities. But right now we have a list of 23 states. And if you go to the blog on Kinetics website, it is listed which states accept PTE for examination, which states accept PTE for endorsement. I would say that this list will be changing all of the time, just like today with adding North Dakota. So it will probably continue to grow and more states will be added. I know Maryland has been reviewing the test, Oregon. So there's a lot of states that have confirmed they're reviewing and working to add it. They just haven't gotten it done yet. So the couple of states that I think it's better probably just to do the states that do accept versus the ones that don't accept. But again, there's 23 states, Texas, Connecticut, Delaware, like a lot.
A lot. Okay. So, and I think we have a list of those states that will accept the Pearson PTE. As Meredith says, that is going to be changing and growing all the time, because Anup is asking why are only 23 accepting now? And I think the answer, Meredith, as you've elaborated, is that it's just newer in the United States. And Meredith is working very hard. As she said, she's got breaking news on Onwards and Upwards that a new state has now accepted. So we have that list of all the states that will accept the Pearson PTE right now. And this list will definitely be growing. And Noop is asking about Missouri, Meredith, and Rolf is asking about Alabama. We can put that list on the screen, but I'm not sure if you know off the top of your head if Missouri and Alabama. Oh, there's the list.
There we go. I knew Alabama. I know Missouri. I have been reaching out. It's a good question why they're not accepting PTE. It was approved by HRSA. We're approved for migration for many, many countries. So we've been vetted. The reasoning that I can think of is it takes time. It takes a lot, especially with state governments. They typically have to go through processes internally. So they might want to accept PTE today and have all of the nurses coming, but they're just not able to because it hasn't come through their approvals yet. So I would say just be patient, but it's definitely worth reaching out to the nursing boards. And I think the more that they hear test takers and nurses want PTE added, you're the people they're going to listen to. So it's definitely a good thing to give feedback that it's an option that people would like. But know that it's my number one priority working with all of the states to gain additional.
Thank you, Meredith. So that list will be growing. We'll be posting that up-to-date list and add the one that Meredith just announced here on Onwards and Upwards live today into the chat. And we will be adding the new locations of states as Meredith adds them to the portfolio. The goal is to have every state in the United States accept PTE. And very quickly, it's actually been very quick, Meredith, that so many states are now accepting. So Ola Hati is just asking about North Dakota, Meredith. So do you want to give you a little plug again about North Dakota?
Yes. North Dakota is accepting PTE. Their scores will be, I think what they sent was an overall 55, and then 50, 50, and 63 in the speaking section. Right now, the visa screen score is 55 overall with no subsection under 50. But we have seen on the CES report, there are states that have required a higher speaking score. My suggestion would be for all nurses to aim for that 63. I think from what we've seen from our internal data, you guys are doing that already. You guys have had great results. And again, from reading the testimonials, I just want to say, I think you guys have phenomenal skills. And I think it's the confidence. I think having the confidence to know that your English is good really makes you feel better about speaking. So I was just thrilled to see so many positive responses and great scores.
Okay, thank you, Meredith. And we are seeing that as well on the Kinetic side. We have thousands of nurses that go through the English process. And as the Kinetics Care Package, Kinetics are the only direct hire company that actually pays for the course for nurses to be able to take the English proficiency exam. So we pay for that course. It is part of the Kinetics Care Package, and it is our gift to all our healthcare workers. So we're very happy to be partnering with PTE in that regard. Meredith, we're going to take a quiz question. So everybody, get ready, put your hands on your phones or your laptops or your iPads. The quiz question is, how long in minutes or hours is PTE? And the first one to answer correctly into the chat will be getting a prize from PTE. Meredith will let us know what the correct answer is. So Rolf is saying 2 hours, Meredith. Is Rolf correct?
Right. Correct.
Rolf is right. Yahoo! Rolf, you got it. So, Rolf, the team will be reaching out to you to give you your prize. Thank you, PTE, for sponsoring 4 quiz questions and 4 prizes today for nurses around the world. I know people are putting their answers into the chat, but Rolf is the lucky one. So stay tuned, everybody, because we've got 3 more quizzes coming up. All right. I saw there was a question I wanted to just answer in the chat. So Jamie's asking, do you have openings in New York? We do, Jamie. We have openings all over the United States. But I see there was a question. Where was it? I'll come back to it. But I think there was a question. Oh, how long is the is it valid for, Meredith? PTE.
So PTE is valid for 2 years, just like TOEFL and IELTS. I think another differentiator on why PTE is a great choice is we give unlimited score reports within that 2 years. So you've paid for the exam, the score is yours. You can send it to as many boards, as many immigration agencies or nursing steps that you have to go through. We realize that there's typically more than 3 to 4 times that you're assigning your score in this process. So there's not any additional charge after that. So if you have a school, if you'd like to pursue your master's degree at the same time, you could use the PTE for admission to school also and not have to take another language exam.
Okay, thank you, Meredith. So thank you for clarifying that. And I think just to sum up, because it can be very confusing about the CGFNS and the different states. So there are two kind of like umbrellas. I always like to explain it like that. There are two umbrellas here that are important. One is the CGFNS, because that is the score that is required in order to get your visa screen. And the score for the visa screen requirement is what, Meredith?
It's 55 overall with no subscore. So reading, writing, speaking, and listening. You get 4 communicative skills, and none of those 4 skills under 50.
Okay, so thank you for clarifying that. So that's the score required from CGFNS for your visa screen, and you need the visa screen in order to get your green card. On the other hand is the states, and that is where there are a number of states that have accepted PTE and some that haven't. So that is where you need to confer with your kinetics case specialist, and we will advise you and keep you updated as Meredith adds states to that list. But we will provide that updated list with the update about North Dakota that Meredith just shared live here today on Onwards and Upwards, and we will share that updated list with North Dakota on it as well, and we'll keep updating everybody. So please check out the blog on Kinetics USA, and we will have up-to-date information for you. Meredith, last question for this segment, just in terms of the overview. Can you give us a comparison of how PTE compares to the other English exams? And I think we have a chart for you to.
Yeah, if you want to put this chart up, that would be great. And we have this chart again on the Kinetics blog. So if you guys want to go back and reference this, it's a lot of information. I think there's a lot of standouts. For me, the number one would be the test experience. You know, you can register for your test, sit for your test, and get your results back easily within a week to 2. And with some of the other tests, you can't even get a seat within 2 weeks. So the speed, the fastness of the entire experience would be one huge advantage. The second is the cost. You know, we are considerably lower than some of the other options. That being said, our preparation material is also a lot less, and we've got so much free information. I know Kinetics does an amazing job with their Kinetics College and a lot of preparation material, but there's a lot of material that nurses can study on their own, just going through the YouTube page, going through our preparation page. There's free courses on the page to do, and really familiarizing yourself with the content. The other thing that I was told was a really big advantage to PTE was taking the scored practice tests. So many test takers, nurses specifically, said that having that experience really helped them be familiar with the format of the test and not feel surprised. It lessened their anxiety. And getting a mock score, 20 minutes after you've taken the exam helps predict, am I really ready? And then again, easing that anxiety. When you see your practice score is above your desired score, you're going to be much more inclined to want to take the test and to take the test feeling good about it instead of going in with a lot of anxiety.
Okay, so really fast, inexpensive, easy to use, easy to get your results. And that's why so many nurses are looking at PTE as an option for their English proficiency exam. I see there's a question in the chat from Eric. Hi, Tanya. Could you focus on medtechs in every live session? Thank you for the note, Eric. I will be more specific in adding medtechs to the list because Kinetics plays many, many, many medtechs all over the United States. So Meredith, can you talk a little bit about how the PTE would be in effect for medtechs?
I could be wrong because it's kind of new to us. Our focus has been on nursing, but I believe that med techs also apply under the visa screen. So what you would really need would be the visa screen. I think the rest of the reports include that. Again, don't hold me to this with med techs. I think Tanya, this is a great thing that we could explore together and do another show on med techs, and I can get some more information on the process. But it was approved from HRSA for all healthcare workers. It's just up to the process of each occupation.
Thank you, Meredith. And we actually have one of our med techs who's going to be in the next segment of the show where we're going to talk about PTE experiences. So we're going to explore that a little bit more, Eric. So thank you for that question. I love your notes. So if you have a question or you want something that we want to point out, this is a conversation. So please do like Eric did and put that into the chat. Meredith, just one question, last question is PTE, PTE is a computer-based test. So is it suitable for everybody? Or maybe if you're a healthcare worker who's not that computer literate, might it be difficult for you to do PTE? Or are there any other restrictions or any other kind of, any other limitations that we might have for some of our viewers?
So I think that's a great question, Tanya, and it brings back choice. At Pearson, we are a learning company, and we recognize that learners come and in all shapes and fashions and learn differently, and people test differently. So giving the option of a computer-based really helps people that suffer from test anxiety. The other part is removing the bias. We'd like to think that we don't have any human bias, but there's always just some built in. So if the rater's not having their best day and the test taker's not having their best day and everything goes wrong, you could really end up with a score that's not 100% or even 90% reflective of your true abilities. Whereas the computer, there's no bias. There's no judging the accent. All of the accents are already built into the system. So it really makes, I think, students feel more comfortable, especially test takers that have had one bad experience. It really kind of seems to set the tone and downgrade the confidence level. And I like to tell people, don't base your skills based on one test result. Be confident in yourself and keep trying. I think what you said on computer savvy, you don't have to be computer savvy, but I would recommend, if you do not feel comfortable typing, that you look online for a free, they have a lot of free apps that work on typing, and take some of those free courses, because not only will that help you in the test, but that will help you in the rest of your profession. I think, at least here in the US, every time I've been to the hospital or the doctor, they're always typing. They're always entering things into a computer and feedback. So it's definitely a skill that you'll need and continue to use. But I wouldn't let it hold you back. If you feel like, oh, I'm not great at computers, you don't really have to do anything with the computer. It's a headset that you're sitting in front of the computer and you're typing. So again, brush up on your typing, take a free course, and I think that would really help everybody.
Okay, thank you, Meredith. So it really is very fair and open for everybody, and a very exciting development, actually, to see how many nurses are now taking PTE. So before we move on to our next segment and bring in some of our healthcare workers from Kinetics, and they will share their experience, Meredith, we're going to do one more giveaway. So we've got 3 to go. Everybody, are you ready? PTE measures 4 skills: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Which skills are tested in the same section? So the first person who puts the correct answer in the chat will be getting a free giveaway from PTE, thanks to Meredith. If you know the answer to this question, put it in the chat now. Okay, so Rolf is saying again, reading and speaking. Meredith, is that correct? Freda is saying listening and speaking. Eben is saying speaking and reading. Mitch, speaking and listening. Which one's correct, Meredith?
I don't think I've seen the right one yet. Let me look.
Whoa. Come on, everybody.
Oh,
there's still time.
I have it. It's speaking and writing. Sorry,
Speaking and writing. So that is Malaravisa. Well done, and congratulations. Our team will be reaching out to you, and the right answer is speaking. And oh, sorry, it's not Meredith, it's Abladar Salam. I hope I've got that right. So well done, and thank you, Meredith. So Meredith will be coming back in a few minutes. We're going to be bringing in some of our Kinetics healthcare workers who are going to be talking about their experience, and Meredith will be coming back talking a little bit more about the exam structure, how to prepare, and what some of the myths are about Pearson PTE. So we're going to be bringing in some of our nurses now who are going to be joining us and talking about their experience. We have Paul, Shamila, and Diana, who, and Diana is a medical technologist. So I know we had questions about that. Shamila, we don't see you, so hopefully you'll be able to get your video going. But let's start off with introductions. I think let's start. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Oh, there's Shamila. Welcome. Is it in Diana? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Indiana.
Sorry, say that again.
Indiana.
Indiana. Okay, great. Indiana, Shamila, if you want to put yourself on mute, if you're not speaking, because there seems to be a little bit of noise interference. So Indiana, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us just very briefly about yourself.
I'm Indiana Belia. I am a medical technologist here in the Philippines. I took my PTE exam last December 2022.
Okay. Thank you, Indiana. And is this the first English exam that you've ever taken?
Yes, I took my IELTS exam before, and fortunately, I was always stuck with my with 6.5 in speaking test. So even if I got a total score, even if I got a good score in my total band score, so I was always stuck with 6.5 in my speaking test, and I took the IELTS exam for 3 times. So I decided to take PTE, and I passed.
Yay! Congratulations. That is really wonderful, wonderful news. Thank you for sharing your story, Indiana. So for those nurses who are scared of the English exam, I think this is going to be very inspirational for you, because our nurses and med techs are sharing their experiences. And like Indiana, she took the IELTS 3 times, couldn't get the right score, and think of how stressful that was, and probably how expensive that was, and then took PTE and passed. So thank you for sharing that, Indiana, and we're going to be coming back to you to ask some questions about your experience. Shamila, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Shamila, you'll need to unmute. Shamila? I think Shamila might be having a technical hitch there. Paul, do you want to maybe go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, Teria. My name is Paul. I'm from Ghana.
Welcome, Paul.
I'm a registered nurse in Ghana.
Okay. Thank you for
having me here.
Welcome. I am, as you know, from South Africa, from South Africa, Paul. So it's wonderful to see a fellow African on the show today. So Paul is going to be talking about his experience. Shamila, can you hear us now? I think Shamila is having a little bit of a technical hitch. Shamila, do you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself? Shamila? I think Shamila is having a little bit of a technical hitch. So let's maybe speak with Injayana and Paul in the meantime. So Injayana and Paul, Injayana, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about, you told us a little bit about the history of you going through the English exam, the frustration of trying to pass the IELTS, and then your success with the PTE. Why did you decide to take the PTE exam?
I decided to take the PTE exam because I was already frustrated in taking the IELTS. Uh, Before, I really had no idea what is PT all about. A friend of mine was the one who introduced and encouraged me to take PTE. So I searched their website, I watched some videos, and I also studied the test formats. That's how I came to know the PTE. It is really important to um, study or the different test format because each part has different type of questions. So before I decide to take the test, I really studied them well, review and practice every day. So that's why I was able to pass the PTE exam.
So, Injana, how long did you study for?
I studied for about 2 months because I was busy also with my work. And but even though how tired I was, I see to it that I take a practice test every day, even in one task. But if I am off duty, that's the time that I complete the studying all the different tasks. And that's how and that is how my journey in taking the PTE exam.
Okay. So that really, it's been a long, hard struggle. So congratulations on your success in making sure that you got through the English exam. What does it feel like now to have passed the English? How has your life changed?
Well, I feel relief. I'm very
I'm sure.
happy. And then I finally pushed through my CGFNS. And honestly, now I am waiting for my interview at the US Embassy. So
Okay,
I'm really
very,
happy.
very exciting. Wonderful, Indiana. We are so proud of you. So thank you for having the grit and the perseverance to continue on this journey because I know it must have been very, very stressful for you. And we're so glad that you were able to pass with PTE. Shamila, I think Shamila's back. Shamila, do you want to introduce yourself? Shamila?
Yes, thank you so much for providing to my experience about PT. My name is Sarmila Mainali. I am from Nepal. I am registered nurse here. Hello,
We can hear you, Shamila.
hello.
We can hear you, Shamila.
Yes, okay, that's okay. I am registered here, nurse here. Okay, okay. I'm continuing my experience.
Okay.
I'm
Thank you,
registered
Shamila.
nurse
You're
here.
a
I
little bit
am
faint.
in
If you
this
want to try and maybe
profession
speak.
for about 14 years.
Thank you, Shamila. Your voice is a little faint. If you want to maybe speak up a little bit, can you hear us, Shamila? I think Shamila's having some technical issues. Shamila, can you tell us a little bit about your experience? Oh, Shamila's left us. I think Shamila's got some Wi-Fi issues, so it's probably not going to be possible for her to come back on. So, Paul, let's move to you. Tell us a little bit about your journey with PTE.
Okay, thank you, Tanya. Like after I completed my English, I registered with Connectis, and they told me they have a course for us in terms of the English preparation. So Miss Jennifer told me they have IELTS, and then also we have PT. So I asked her that what is more. I wanted to know more about the PT. So she told me that uh, he will add me to one of the groups that is Telegram group. So I joined the Telegram group. So then I learned more about the PTE. So I started preparing with the PTE. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So Paul is referring to Jennifer. Jennifer is the head of our English department. She does an amazing job of educating our healthcare workers about what is the best option for them, just in terms of the different states that they're going to and which ones accept PTE. Based on their experience, which exam is a good option. And we have lots of resources Paul was talking about our groups with other nurses where you can have study partners. As I said, Kinetics pay for a course for all of our healthcare workers. Paul and Ejana has made use of that. We have Kinetics College, which Meredith mentioned, which is once a week on a Monday. We have our esteemed partners, Niners and Swoosh, that do PTE classes. So there are a lot of resources and a lot of information that is shared with you. Indiana, what was it like when you went in to take the exam? What was your experience with taking the exam? Tell us about the day that you went in. You're on mute, Indiana. Indiana, you're on mute.
What was the question again? Could you repeat, please?
Yes, I said, tell us about the day you took PTE. What was it like? What was your experience like when you took the PTE, the day you went in?
At first, because I really prepared for it, and when I went to the testing center, um, the facilitator was so accommodating, and then we had um, smooth registration before taking the test, and during the exam, I think there were 10 both in that room. The only thing that I was a bit disturbed is the noise background, but you have to focus and then uh, answer the exam right away so that you will not be disturbed with the people with the noise in your surroundings. But overall it was a great experience because I was able to pass the exam. I get the result after 4 hours. So when I found out that I passed the exam, I was so happy. And I mean, the sacrifices that I did was worth enough.
So it was instant gratification after the long struggle, and we are so happy for you that you were able to pass. Paul, the different sections of the PTE, what would you say was the most difficult one for you?
Okay, what I can say right now is the listening part, because you need to work on your listening models, because your listening ability also counts. Because sometimes you hear the word, like you won't hear all of the words, so you get to the part of the words, then you stuck there. So I think that is the most challenging part that I was encounter during my test.
Okay, so that's good advice on how to overcome that. Indiana, what would you say is your best advice for anybody who is embarking on the journey of taking the English exam?
Well, before taking the test, they have to study hard. They have to familiarize the test format, as I've said earlier, because each part has different type of questions. So before I took the test, I really studied them carefully and intensely so that during the exam, I am ready for it. And what advice that I can give to the one who will be taking the exam is that uh, just study hard, practice every day, do watch some videos, listen to podcasts, and also try to, if possible, try to have a practice every day, even for one task, because in that way you will be what uh, you will be exposed with the different type of question, and in during the test you are ready. You will not be you will not feel nervous because you are practicing every day. The practice that I did every day was exactly the same in the real tests, like in the listening, the speaking, the writing, and in reading. So don't give up if you fail. Don't give up if you failed. It's really normal, but but I have said you have to study harder.
Okay, so really good advice there, Indiana. Thank you for sharing that. Is to keep preparing, because as Meredith said, once you get to the exam, if you're fully prepared, it actually takes away a lot of the anxiety because it is exactly what you expect it to be. And the other is, like Indiana, is don't give up. Don't give up. You have to have that grit. So hopefully this will be inspirational for those healthcare workers that are struggling with the English exam, like Indiana did already. We actually have one of our nurses. Unfortunately, he was not able to make it today because he had work commitments. But he will be sharing his story in the coming weeks and months. He took the IELTS 9 times and couldn't pass. And then he took the PTE and passed. So there's going to be more coming up sharing his story. And we are seeing many healthcare workers who are seeing a very similar experience. Thank you for sharing that, Indiana. Paul, do you want to share, what would you say are is your best advice to any healthcare worker who's embarking on this journey is the first question. And second question is, at what stage did you actually take the exam in your journey of coming to the United States?
Okay, thank you, Tanya. What I will say is the advice that I will give it to my colleague nurses, that they should take off anxiety from their life, because in these PTE exams, the moment you become nervous, you can't make it. That's what I can say, because the time that's allocated to the test is not enough. That's what I would say. It's not enough, because the moment that anxiety sets in, you get a block thought. So after you get a block thought, you can't do anything about the PTE. So after the exam, then I think it won't go well with you. So what I say is they should take out anxiety, and then also they should be bold when they get to the exams hall. They should focus of what they are going to do. And then also what I'll say is the registration is it's not difficult to register. So I think they should all go for PT, because the last time I was before taking my PT exams, I was learning something about the IELTS and those stuff, because when I compare the IELTS to the PT, I would say the PT is slightly difficult compared to IELTS. So I will encourage them to write the PT. And then also the time is not enough, so they should be time conscious, and then also they should be time management also account. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. That's great advice for any healthcare workers who are embarking on this journey. And I think that listening to Paul and Gianna's experiences can be very inspirational. I'm just so sorry that Shamila had some technical difficulties. So thank you, Shamila, for trying. And I'm so sorry that it was a little bit technically challenging for you. I want to thank Gianna and Paul for joining us today and sharing their stories. I know that listening to them is very inspirational. You are really paying it forward for other healthcare workers by sharing your experience, your advice, your tips. And I'm going to give final words to Paul. Paul, what was it like the moment you got that result from PTE that you passed? Describe that moment. Look at that big smile.
I don't know in other countries. In Ghana, after the test, the place when I went for the test is about 4 hours journey from my city to that city. It's 4 hours journey. So after the exams, like in the middle of the road, that's within 2 hours time, then I got a message from the PTE center that I should check my results. They said, wow, because I can't believe it. Like within 2 hours, my results came. So when I check the results, even the one that I was looking at is the band score, the total band score, because I've been checking from the CGFNS about the total band score. Then they say it's 55. You need to get 55. So when I saw the band score, then I said, oh God, I think I make it. So when I checked the main results, then everything was fantastic, and like I thank God for that. Thank you.
And we can just see the happiness and the good vibes coming from Paul and Gianna after all of that hard work to be able to get that positive result. And that's what we want for everybody who's watching today. So really the PTE can be an amazing option for so many healthcare workers wanting to come to the United States. I see Hazem has a question, resources for studying. So Hazem, as a Kinetics healthcare worker, we provide a free course for all our healthcare workers, whether you are studying for PTE, for IELTS, for OET. We have free courses. We have study partners. We have a whole English department that will headed up by Jennifer and her team, who do a fabulous job of helping the nurses through the process. Paul is nodding his head there. And we have a lot of community support, as well as our Kinetics College every Monday with free resources and classes for all healthcare workers to get you through the process. So we're gonna be moving back now to Meredith. So Gianna and Paul, thank you for joining us today. We can't wait for you to start in the United States, and we look forward to seeing you here very, very soon. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing your experience. We're going to be bringing back Meredith, and Meredith is going to be talking about in the last segment just a little bit more about the specifics of the structure and the content and the exam prep that healthcare workers might experience. So Meredith, let's start off with a quiz question, because I know we've got 2 more to go. So the next quiz question that we're going to have is, what is the required PTE score for visa screen? So the key here is visa screen, not what the states are looking for. This is the HRSA minimum, and we've already got people putting their answers into the chat. Meredith, who's got the correct answer?
People are on, but haven't mentioned all of it. We need the correct overall score and your sub scores.
Okay. So we need a little bit more detail there. Who's got it,
But
Meredith? I see I'm sorry, Meredith.
Hazim, I think Hazim just won. He was first in with 55 with none less than 50, which is the correct answer.
Okay, there we go. So I think it was Mohammed Reza. So well done, Mohammed Reza. And the right answer is an overall of 55 and no score below 50. Thank you to Mohammed Reza and Meredith, to the PTE, for giving out free giveaways from PTE. We're so grateful for that, Meredith. All right, so Meredith, give us an overview of the test format.
Sure. So, and I think I've put this on the blog as well, but you can also find this on our website. But just to kind of break it down, PTE, we talked about, it's done in 1 session. So that's another advantage. It's not broken into 2. You might not have to travel. Imagine traveling 4 hours back-to-back days or on separate days and then traveling back. I know a lot of people have had to do that. So 1 session, 2 hours. It's broken into 3 sections. So as we talked about earlier, speaking and writing is tested together. However, your scores, you do get individual scores for all 4 sections. Part 2 is reading and part 3 is listening. I think Ediana mentioned something that's really interesting for the rest of the group to know, and that's the question types. And Paul, you mentioned it also. It's not easy. You have to listen. You have to be paying attention. I see a lot of things and people talking about templates. Use this template. Templates don't work. I will tell you what templates help with, and that's helping you become more familiar and your speaking structure. So if you're going to use a template, my suggestion would be use a template to practice reading and to practice speaking. But I would not, using a template to memorize is not going to get you the score that you're looking for, because there's so many integrated tasks, which means we're testing listening and speaking at the same time. So just know that increasing your English ability is the best way to increase your score. And by practicing every day, you're not beating the test, you're increasing your English skills. And so it's really doing you a favor, not only for your language proficiency score, but it's increasing your English skills every single day. So I think on the structure, the most important and kind of cool thing for me when I took it was I didn't have to sit and wait for the next question before I could move forward. When I was done with the question and I submitted it, I could move forward to the next question. So I didn't have to just sit there and again, let that anxiety take over. I know, Tanya, you mentioned somebody had taken the IELTS test 9 times. And in my mind, I just think, gosh, I can't imagine being in his shoes on the second time or even the 5th time, and how the anxiety would increase every single time I took it. And so I'm not surprised. It's kind of like, the insanity running into a wall and getting the same results. So we encourage people, if a test doesn't work for you, don't keep trying the same thing. Try something different. Try a different way to study. I think somebody asked about preparation and how to prepare. And again, we talked about all of the materials that Kinetics gives, which is amazing. I can't think of anybody else that prepares their nurses in such a thorough way and really make sure that you guys are ready for these exams. So on the format, there are different question types. There's fill in the blank, there's multiple choice, there's reordering paragraphs. In the listening section, which we talked about, you're going to have to summarize spoken text. There's also a few multiple choice. There's a fill in the blank. There's highlighting incorrect words. There's also writing from dictation. And I think another really neat thing about PTE is that when you take PTE and you're listening to the listening sections, you're hearing authentic content. This was not generated off of the web, off of Wikipedia. You can't find a question. There's not going to be, tell me about your picnic. They're really thorough questions, and it requires that you're listening and comprehending and then feeding that back in the right fashion. So I would also say that this is not, I know I've heard it's an easy test, and it's not an easy test. It's an easy experience. And I think that the experience of going through the test makes it feel, again, so much easier. It's not an easy test, though. As a native English speaker, when I took the test, I really thought, wow, this is tough. So kudos to you guys for learning another language and mastering another language.
Yeah, really, it's not easy at all. And I think we have a clip from one of our healthcare workers, Indrelina, who is going to be sharing her experience also with the exam. She couldn't be here today, but wanted to share and inspire other nurses and talk about her experience. And we'll show that clip of Indrelina and her experience of the exam.
Hello, my name is Ederlina, and I am a registered nurse by profession. I choose PTE over the IELTS academic because it is a lot easier than the IELTS for me. And I read also from a lot of nurses from Lefora that it is easier than the IELTS academic. So what I did, I purchased a 1-month subscription from Apuni, and I studied almost 3 weeks before taking the exam last January 25 of this year. What I find difficult about the PTE is the reading section. But I did a lot of practice for the listening, speaking, reading, and the writing. I encourage the nurses to try first the PTE. Try for yourselves. there's a lot of practice tests in UpUni, and yeah, you will discover that that it's really a lot easier than the IELTS academic. For those nurses who are struggling to meet a desired score, for those nurses who are struggling to meet a desired score for especially the speaking section, yeah, you just have to check your microphone before starting the exam, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Edrelina, for sharing your experience. Meredith, Edrelina said that it seemed to her that the PTE was easier. Now, sometimes that perception is reality, but, the PTE has been qualified by the CGFNS, the score has been verified. So, it's not maybe necessarily easier, but just a different experience. Can you talk a little bit from an exam preparation perspective, some of the tips or the common, what would you say is the common errors that nurses make when they're preparing for PTE, when we talk about exam preparation?
Well, I think the number one mistake you could make would be not taking a practice test, whether it's from APUNI or a PTE practice test. I would recommend ours because it's the experience from start to finish. But I think going into it blindly would be the biggest mistake because you're not familiar with the format. And I think you nailed it. It's not an easier test, but it's an easier experience. It's an easier registration. It's an easier getting to in to take the test. You don't have that anxiety. You don't have that worry that the person's not going to like you, or you might not like that person back. And so really taking out the external factors and making it really just focus on preparation and on the test. I think the number one thing that you can do is, again, take a practice test and look at where you need to improve and focus on those areas. A lot of the people that I've spoken to, especially kinetics nurses, I feel like after you've taken the IELTS and you haven't received the score you need, which, just to compare a little bit, our scores, PTE is a granular score. So an IELTS band could comprise 7 PTE points, up to 7. So, on any given day, you could be anywhere on that band, whereas PTE, you're going to get a granular score and you're going to really have a better idea of where you sit. So, going into the test, what to expect. And again, be confident in yourself. That's a huge, whether you're speaking a natural English speaker like myself, I get nervous. And when I get nervous, I speak differently. I think it's just natural to hesitate when you have any kind of anxiety. And so if you haven't had success with an exam, I can imagine that your scores might not increase as you continue to take it, but they might decrease because with every failure, you lose a little confidence in your abilities. And it doesn't mean that your ability isn't there. It means that you're not showcasing your ability. I think YouTube is another amazing place for tips and speaking courses. I know Niner has a lot of different practice opportunities, and Swoosh is a great program as well. So I would say, look around at the free material, see what fits you best. We have free videos that are linked. We have free speaking courses, especially with that higher speaking score for some of the states. I know that speaking might be something that people are worried about. And then again, the online scored practice test would be my 3 things to start with. And then from the online scored practice test, see where you fall. And if you're hitting your desired score, then go ahead and take PTE. If you're not at your desired score, it tells you exactly where you need to improve. And so that's, again, where I would focus. I wouldn't do a weekend test prep. I would do working with somebody on getting together and speaking with them and doing one-on-one. I just find that it really helps to, again, practice. That's the number one tip.
Yeah, and that's great advice. So lots of ideas there of resources that are available, lots of ideas of how to practice, how to prepare. And I think you are spot on, Meredith, because I think that when you are not well prepared, the anxiety level goes sky high. And I think Paul spoke to that as well. And then you're not going to give of your best. You're not going to showcase yourself of the best. And there's no bias here because it's a computer. So it's not like you're dealing with a person who, as you said, may or may not like you. So I think that's great advice. I see Mitch has a question, or it's actually just a comment. Try to learn how to focus more and work even with distractions around. Some exam centers have nurses, students taking the test side by side, and it could get noisy. Be prepared for that scenario as well. Meredith, I know one of our healthcare workers mentioned that. Is that something that you've seen is common? Because I think that's also part of preparation, is just to know what to expect when you're in the room.
So yes, and that's a great point, Mitch. Thank you for bringing that up. I think we kind of compare it to real world. You know, when you're in a hospital, you're going to be in a busy, noisy environment, and it's really taking the focus. We didn't plan it like that, but it is part of it. There are noise canceling headphones, so you do have the ability to block out some of it. But some exam centers are larger than others. So that might be another thing to consider. If you're having a hard time, if you are a person that's easily distracted, try to find a test center that has a less number of seats, and that might help as well. If you're testing in the United States, you're probably going to be testing in a room by yourself. So it's a little bit different than when you're testing at overseas, because in the US, we don't have as many international people taking the test. So it's not typically the entire lab, as it's an accommodations room. So another tip for that would be go to a busy place, a busy free Wi-Fi place, put on your noise canceling headphones and do some Ape Uni, do some Niner experiences. Again, try to replicate what you're going to experience so that you're prepared for that. If you're only anticipating incredibly quiet and a focused thing, then it might throw a little hitch in that. So again, it kind of goes back to practice in different environments would be my advice.
Yeah, I love that. And that's what I think is so helpful about Onwards and Upwards, is because often it's the surprise element that can raise your anxiety level. And because you know that it may or may not be noisy-ish in the test room, as long as you know that and can prepare yourself mentally for that, and you're prepared for the exam, it really shouldn't be a consideration or a bother at all. But if you don't know that and you get there, it might throw you off. So as Meredith said, there's some good pointers and tips there if you want to maybe go to a smaller center or where the headphones, and there are different ways of mitigating that. But at the same time, just to be prepared and expect that is really helpful to make sure that you know what to expect and you get through the exam. So I know we're a little bit over time, but I have one last question that I wanted to ask Meredith, because this is such a big topic and such an important topic. What are some of the myths or misconceptions about PTE? Because sometimes people will say, well, it doesn't work for all nationalities, or if I'm not computer literate, it's not going to work, or maybe there's certain test centers that are going to work better than other test centers, or does it matter which country you're in? So what are some of the myths or misconceptions about PTE?
Well, I'll start with the ones that you mentioned. So number one, the typing. The typing can affect your score. However, being computer literate is not going to affect your score. So work on your typing skills just like you would work on your speaking skills. I think one of the biggest myths that I heard was that PTE was all multiple choice. And I thought, wow, if it was all multiple choice, I think that we'd have some issues. It is not all multiple choice. There are multiple choice questions in each section, but I think that that's maybe 1 to 2 questions per section. So I wouldn't count on it being multiple choice. Also, that the templates work is a myth. I know with our scoring, and we have a lot of anti-gaming in the background, that they don't work. And just to know, if you are caught cheating, using anything, you wouldn't get a score. Your score would be revoked. So trust yourself, trust your ability, and put yourself out there. Take the test, take the practice test. I think the other myth that we hear is that it's we've said it here, that it's easier. It's not easier, but it's a better experience. And I think when it's a better experience, we think it's easier because it wasn't so difficult for us to register, or it wasn't as difficult to get there. I personally think not having somebody sit in front of you and feel like everything you're saying is being done, to me, would be an easier experience. So again, it's really focusing on that. Experience is easier. Content is just as difficult, if not more difficult. Again, we use integrated tasks on almost every question. So you don't get to rote memorize. I would say that that's also a myth, is memorizing answers. It's really not going to serve your English skills.
Okay, great information there, Meredith. We're going to finish off with our last quiz question, our last giveaway. So the last quiz question: is PTE scored by a human examiner or AI computer? First person to put their correct answer in the chat is going to be the winner of the last giveaway that Meredith and the PTE have so generously given out. And Jelen I think Jelen is the first person on here. Computer, Meredith, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, congrats, Jelen. And the PTE team will be reaching out to you to make sure that you get that last giveaway. And thank you to everybody else who also contributed into their answers into the chat. So, and we're going to finish off now. I know we went a little bit over time today, but because the English exam is such an important part of this journey, if we look at the success path that's on the Kinetics USA website, and we look at all the steps that are involved in getting to the United States, and always refer to the success path for practice and for review, and there are a lot of different steps, but having your English proficiency, so look at that step number 4, whether you do it at that point in your journey where you've already been sponsored for your green card, or if you're a medtech for your H1 visa, or a Mexican or Canadian citizen for your TN visa, or if you do it but before you actually interview or are sponsored, wherever you do it in the process, it is an essential part of the process. You cannot come to the United States if you were not if you're not trained in English, if you don't do the English proficiency exam. And really what we want is for you to all be at that step number 7, which is enjoy and prosper and live your American dream. So I want to thank Meredith for joining us today from the PTE. I want to thank the PTE for the amazing giveaways to the viewers of Onwards and Upwards. I want to thank Njayana, Indrinala, and Paul for sharing their stories and their experience, and for inspiring healthcare workers around the world. And before you leave, please remember that we have our blog, the PTE blog, that is on our website. We put that into the chat with all the information that we have shared today. We also have our Kinetics Care Package, which is our English exam scholarship. We pay for the course. We also have PTE classes on the Kinetics College every Monday. So there are a lot of resources available for all Kinetics healthcare workers. So to finish off, just a reminder about upcoming shows before you leave us. We have next week, we have a stateside show on Pennsylvania, what it's like to live and work in Pennsylvania. On the 7th, we have a show, Immigrating with Children to the United States. I did that myself, and it can be challenging and exciting. So a great show coming up. On the 14th, it is budgeting, very important show about how to become financially literate in the United States. On the 21st, we have a client showcase. The 28th, our usual immigration Q&A. On the 5th of May, we have our Kinetics Career Day. We have 5 Kinetics employers that will be showcasing what they have to offer international healthcare workers. The 12th, we have Nurses Month Game Show. The 19th, Immigration Q&A. And on the 26th, we will be talking about direct hire versus staffing. On the Lafora Talk Show, on the 11th, we have Next Generation NCLEX, which will be kicking in on the 1st of April. So very important show. And on the 9th of May, Work-Life Balance. Kinetics College on every Monday. Check your time zone converter. Our amazing partners Aspire, iPass, Swish, and Niners will be doing classes on different topics. And this is free information for all Kinetics employers and employees and viewers, or Kinetics healthcare workers and viewers. And last but not least, I'm talking a lot, the Kinetics initiatives. So free English scholarship for all Kinetics healthcare workers, free NCLEX scholarship for selected nurses, $1,000 referral fee until the end of May. Listen to our podcast, Nursing in America. We have our direct hire program, Onwards and Upwards, every Friday, Kinetics College every Monday, and we also have many allied needs. So lots of information on the PTE today. Thank you again to Meredith, and thank you to our healthcare workers for giving us such great information. Meredith will be back on future shows and keeping us updated as more and more states adopt the PTE. Thank you for joining us, Meredith.
Thank you so much for having us.
Okay, onwards and upwards, everybody. See you next week. Have a great weekend.